Hi, I'm Rick Kaler. Thanks for joining me. Well, in discussions of the current tax reform bills, a new buzzword has popped up that I've heard several times. It's the investor class. Every time I've heard this term on a political talk show, it's been used derogatorily to frame the proposed tax changes as resulting in the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. In every instance, the rich and the investor class were used interchangeably. Now, this is no more accurate than using the terms millionaire and billionaire as if they are the same, which they are certainly not. For example, a $1 million investment portfolio will safely produce $30,000 a year in income. A $1 billion portfolio will produce $30 million a year. Now that is a big, big difference. Equating the investor class with the rich is just as absurd. To illustrate, here's some information from a 2008 poll of 24,000 voters by Zogby International. Now, according to an article by their CEO, John Zogby, it was called Who Belongs to the Investor Class and appeared in Forbes in February of 2009. 38% of those surveyed identified themselves as being in the investor class. Now, of this 38%, almost two-thirds had a household income under $100,000. 44% did not have college degrees. That's almost half. Didn't have college degrees. 15% were Hispanic or African American, and 15% held blue-collar jobs. This last number is especially interesting because blue-collar workers made up only 21% of the total of those surveyed. So the majority of the blue-collar workers considered them in the investor class. However, I think the most surprising statistic from the survey was this. Of the people who said they weren't in the investor class, which was 62%, more than half had money in 401k retirement plans. This means they were investors. So obviously, these folks saw the investor class as people other than themselves. My guess is that being an investor has a negative connotation with most Americans today, perhaps related to the idea that investor equals millionaire equals the rich. This is especially unfortunate because if you don't become an investor, your future isn't all that rosy. Becoming an investor is mandatory if you want to provide for yourself in retirement. The alternatives, winning the lottery or eking out a meager existence on Social Security, are extremely unlikely or extremely unappealing. Now, ironically, despite the claims to the contrary, the proposed tax changes do not even favor the investor class. For decades, Congress has taxed the profits from investments differently than ordinary income. This tax, called the capital gains tax, is generally lower than the income tax rate charged on your earned income. Now, at the time that I've recorded this, neither the House or the Senate bill changes the way the IRS taxes capital gains, so I doubt the final bill will either. Instead, both versions would actually penalize investors. With lowering the ordinary income brackets, there will be cases, unless they change this, where investors will actually pay a higher tax on their capital gain than on their ordinary income. And these are middle-class investors. I'm guessing this may be an unintended consequence of the proposed act. I certainly believe that would be true. But it'll be part of the new tax law unless the conference committee changes the capital gains tax brackets to match those new expanded brackets. So regardless of the final version of the tax plan that becomes law, I suggest being skeptical about the term investor class. It's not the same as wealthy. Anyone using it has an agenda rooted in resentment of the rich. The real investor class is broad and easy to join. You belong to it already if you put even a small amount each month into an IRA or a 401k plan at work. Or if you contribute to a 529 college savings plans for your kids. Or if you have any money invested in mutual funds through an online brokerage. If you're wise enough to invest for the future, you are part of the investor class. Thanks for joining me.